Most vehicles don't even make it past 200,000 miles. This Ford crossed 700,000 without major failure. Not because it was lucky, but because of what was done consistently over time. These are the hidden routines that took my Ford to 700,000 miles. Trick 8. Cold starts done right. Most engines don't die from hard driving. They die from cold starts done wrong. Short trips, instant revs, no patience. Just turning the key and asking everything to work at once before it's ready. And the damage doesn't happen loudly, it stacks up quietly. And that's exactly why the first few seconds matter more than most people think. Letting the engine idle for those first few seconds gives the oil pump time to do its job, pushing oil through passages, up into the head, and across parts that were completely dry just moments ago. No revving, no rushing, just a calm start. That thin oil film is what keeps metal from scraping metal. Do that over hundreds of thousands of starts, and it quietly protects bearings, timing chains, lifters, and valve train parts. It's boring, it feels slow, but it's one of the simplest ways engines survive forever. It also helps stabilize idle speed, reduces piston slap on cold mornings, and allows sensors to settle before the engine is put under load. The engine warms evenly instead of unevenly, seals expand the way they're meant to, and stress stays low across the entire rotating assembly. But protecting an engine at startup only works if what's inside it stays healthy too. Trick 7. Oil changes before the reminder. Factory service intervals are designed to get an engine safely through its warranty window, not to carry it for decades. They assume average use and short ownership, which lets long-term wear slowly build up. So what happens when you stop trusting the dashboard? What follows is simple, but it changes how an engine ages long-term. Changing oil early means dirt, fuel residue, and metal particles never get the chance to hang around and cause damage. The oil is always doing its job at full strength, cooling parts, reducing friction, and carrying heat away instead of fighting breakdown. Fresh oil flows better, protects seals from drying out, keeps timing chains quiet, and helps lifters and bearings move the way they're supposed to. Over time, that consistency adds up. The engine feels smoother, sounds calmer, and responds better, not because it's special, but because it's never being asked to run on oil that's already worn out and tired. Trick 6. Gentle throttle, always. Wide open throttle feels great, no doubt about it, but engines remember how they're treated. Push them hard when they're cold or already stressed, and that wear doesn't disappear. And most long-term damage comes from asking for everything at once too often. That's where driving style quietly decides how long parts actually last. Progressive throttle is really just about easing into the power instead of smashing the gas all at once. As you roll into it, pistons and rods take the load smoothly, not like they're getting hit out of nowhere. The transmission has time to do its thing, pick the right gear, and shift cleanly instead of scrambling at the last second. Nothing gets jolted, nothing feels shocked. The whole drivetrain stays relaxed and predictable. You still get up to speed, just without beating on everything. Over time, that smooth power keeps mounts tight, gears wear evenly, and the car feels solid instead of rough and worn out. But even smooth driving can't save a gearbox if the fluid inside it is already cooked. Trick 5. Transmission fluid is not lifetime. Lifetime fluid is a marketing phrase. Gearboxes don't agree with it. Heat, load, and time still break fluid down, and when it's ignored, the transmission pays the price long before the car ever feels old. So why do so many transmissions fail quietly? Because most transmission damage doesn't announce itself until it's too late. Fresh fluid makes a huge difference because it's doing more than just lubricating parts. It carries heat away, keeps clutch packs from slipping, and helps everything engage the way it's supposed to. When fluid is clean, shifts feel the same every day, not random or hesitant. Torque converters stay smooth instead of shuddering, and manuals don't feel notchy or stiff. Once fluid gets old, it loses that grip and cooling ability, and problems start quietly. Changing it early keeps the gearbox happy and predictable. Heat stays under control, seals stay softer for longer, and internal parts don't have to fight degraded fluid every time you move off. It's one of those things you don't feel right away, but months later you realize nothing ever went wrong. And speaking of heat, That's where things usually start going wrong fast. Trick 4, cooling system obsession. Heat is the enemy of everything mechanical. It dries seals, thins fluids, and slowly weakens parts long before anything actually breaks or throws a warning light. And engines rarely warn you before heat does real damage. That's why heat control was handled before it ever became an issue. The cooling system was treated as just as important as oil changes. Coolant flushes never got skipped. Hoses were replaced before they turned soft or brittle. Thermostats didn't wait around to fail. Fans, sensors, radiators, all of it stayed clean and working the way it should. Because once temperatures start creeping up, everything else follows. Oil breaks down faster, seals dry out, and gaskets get stressed. Parts that should have lasted another couple 100,000 miles suddenly don't. Keeping temperatures boring and stable doesn't feel exciting, but it quietly protects every system around the engine. That steady control is a big reason nothing spiraled into bigger problems later on. Trick 3, fixing small problems. Immediately, every car gives warnings long before it fails, but it's just that most people just ignore them. The only difference between a cheap fix and a dead engine is time, and this is where patience either saves an engine or slowly kills it. Catching small issues early makes a bigger difference than most people realize. A new noise didn't get ignored. A small leak didn't get pushed to later. If a sensor started acting strangely, it got attention before it could throw everything else off. Fixing things early keeps the engine from compensating and stressing other parts just to keep running. At high mileage, delay is what kills cars. Little problems grow quietly, oil levels drop, fuel mixtures drift, temperatures rise. Staying ahead of it keeps everything working together instead of fighting itself. You don't notice the benefit right away, but years later, nothing ever went out of control. Trick 2, letting the engine breathe. One thing that quietly kills high-mileage engines is restriction. Dirty air, clogged filters, and neglected breathing systems force engines to work harder than they need to. But when an engine has to fight just to breathe, everything else pays the price. Once airflow gets restricted, everything else starts working harder than it should. Clean airflow makes a bigger difference than people think because it affects everything the engine does. Replacing air filters early keeps dirt out of the intake, sensors reading correctly, and airflow smooth and consistent. When the intake stays clean, fuel mixes properly, combustion stays stable, and the engine doesn't have to work extra just to breathe. An engine that breathes freely runs cooler, smoother, and more efficiently. Throttle response stays the same day after day, fuel trims don't slowly drift, and power never feels strained. Over hundreds of thousands of miles, that steady airflow keeps internal temperatures down and stress low. It's not something you notice on a single drive, but over time, nothing ever feels tired or forced, and everything just keeps working the way it should. And this last habit is one most people never think about, even though it affects the engine every single mile. Trick 1, consistent fuel quality and tank discipline. Fuel quality and fueling habits don't cause problems right away. They quietly shape how the engine runs and how hard it has to work every time you drive. And what goes into the engine always leaves a mark, even if you don't notice it right away. Over long mileage, those small fueling choices quietly add up. Fuel consistency plays a quiet but important role in how an engine ages. Using decent quality fuel keeps injectors cleaner, combustion more even, and prevents deposits from slowly building up inside the engine. Avoiding a near-empty tank helps the fuel pump stay cooler and reduces the chance of sediment getting pulled through the system. Clean combustion leads to fewer carbon deposits on valves and pistons, stable fuel trims, and smoother operation overall. The engine doesn't have to compensate for poor burn quality or restricted injectors. Over long mileage, that steady fueling keeps everything predictable and efficient. Nothing dramatic happens, and that's exactly why it works. So in the end, this Ford didn't reach 700,000 miles because of one big secret. It made it because of small habits done right, over and over again. If you're trying to make your car last, start here. And if you've got a habit that's helped your vehicle go further than expected, drop it in the comments. Like the video, subscribe, and stick around because more real-world car stories are coming.